Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Vandal. We are back again. This is another DAOdrops exclusive industry with the one Christian. What's going on, brother?
Yo, what's up, man? Thank you so much for having me on, bro. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for
I'm a
joining
big fan
us.
of, thank you, yeah. I'm a big fan of what you've done with our records, man. I mean, I've known you for, I mean, when you were back here in KL in Malaysia, and you've done so much for the industry back home, I mean, here back home. And I'm so happy to see that you've done something with DAO Records, on the blockchain stuff. It's so cool, man. Yeah,
Awesome.
good job, man.
Appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we are, this is it. This is the 23rd of April, and we are live here premiering this interview as well as our other interview together. And I just want to kind of just ask you a couple of questions, get to know you a bit better. So if you could just introduce yourself to the people, that'd be awesome.
Sure. So my name is Christian I'm an artist and producer. I own my own record label as well, Solab Records. I was previously signed with my vocal harmony group, Universal Music, and it was good. We learned a lot in the process, enough for me business in the record industry, and yeah, just take that musical journey one step further, basically for me. Yeah,
Amazing. So you're located in Malaysia, right? I know that
Malaysia,
people might
Kuala
not
Lumpur.
know. Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, that's right.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
what about
But
what were your some of your inspirations musically, like that got you into singing and into production?
yeah, right. So, uh, man, there's so many. I listen to literally everything: pop, rock, R&B, hip hop. So I'm like this melting pot of different genres of music because you you get some people who are like uh, rock purists, or they're kind of Nazi about it, and you get R&B purists and Nazi about it. For me, I could never understand that because music shouldn't have any boundaries, right? I mean, sure, everybody has their own preferences or whatever, but a good song is a good song regardless of the genre. You know what I mean? And I listen to everything, man. Prince, D'Angelo, off the top of my head, yeah, like Boys to Men. I was a big Foo Fighters fan. Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, man, you name it. I listen to everything, and at different stages of my career, my experience, my journey, I was heavy into one thing or another. Another, sorry. And Nirvana was a big influence on me, actually. Yeah.
So how did that translate to like your production? I mean, obviously you're a vocalist and a producer, so
Yeah. Yeah.
what are some of your like production influences and
Right.
the musical direction that you're going now?
Okay, so I mean, I'm a multi-instrumentalist, primarily a vocalist first, and then along the way, I picked up playing the bass. Actually, bass is my primary instrument, and then from there, I moved to guitar, piano, so on and so forth, a little bit of trumpet. So for me, like when I hear music, okay, so another thing about me is that my dad was the sound engineer, he was a producer. So from the time I was a kid, from the time I could remember, he was always teaching me about how to listen to music because I think that is something that has to be taught actually, because whe- when it comes to sound, I mean, music by itself is an art, but sound in itself, like the way you pan the sound, um, the way you mix the instruments and the vocals on top of it, right? It that in itself is an art form that kind of is not so mainstream. Like normally sound engineers appreciate it or whatever, but when you can hear that, it adds so much of depth to the musical arrangements that have been put together by the arrangers, you know what I mean? So for me, it was always from the beginning, sound and music together. I understood the whole picture because of my dad. So I just knew immediately that that's what I wanted to do. And so it was very important for me to learn all the basic contemporary instruments so that I would have a good idea of why an arrangement is a certain way. Like say, for example, in a rock song, a rock song is a rock song because one of the driving factors is the distorted guitars and the way the drums are mixed, right? In an R&B song, you have a really heavy low end on the bass and the kick, right? So it's like all these like small, tiny, how to say, like just these small tiny changes the genre. And yeah, I just that affected me so much growing up. And so for me now, like I'm at the moment in my journey, big on R&B. I've always been big on R&B. So I've been doing some R&B stuff, a little bit of trap R&B, trap soul kind of infusion at the moment. But I also have this vocal harmony group called Back to Basics, and that's just basically organic, like vocal harmonies. Think Boys to Men, and it's a very similar kind of vibe. So that's where I am right now. But definitely planning on exploring other genres of music. You know what I mean? I'm also producing for other artists, which allows me to explore different types of music as well. So like electro dance music or rock or just straight up pop. You know what I mean? Yeah, that kind of stuff. That's where
Amazing.
I am right now.
Nice. And okay, so
Yep.
tell us a bit about the song Poison, and maybe like what were your influences? Belle Biv DeVoe, maybe. Just kidding.
Right.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, tell us some of the influences, and maybe speak a bit about sort of the production or vocal techniques that you used, and that whole process as well.
Sure. Okay, so Poison, I had not really released a solo single, um, prior to this. I'd kind of released something on YouTube, but it was still like me kind of just experimenting. But in the past, so I was with Back to Basics, my vocal harmony group, and we were signed to Universal Music. When our contract ended, we took a break because we were touring a lot, and we were really we were releasing a lot of music at the time, and the 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 playing shows and touring took a lot out of us, so we wanted to take a break. I personally didn't want to take a break. I wanted to do more music. So that time frame between 2019 and 2021, 2019, yeah, and 2021, um, it allowed me to just experiment with my own expression. You know what I mean? So Poison actually, okay. So from 2019, I started writing in the middle of 2019 and released my um, first solo single in 2020 August. So in that year, I was just basically writing and recording music, and so I had actually stacked a whole bunch of songs. And Poison was the last song I had written on my album. Yeah, but I'd been releasing it as singles, although I consider it as an album. But with Spotify algorithms and all that, you wanna kind of be consistent and release it as singles because you can't really playlist it if you release the whole album. You know what I mean, right? Yeah. So I was releasing it as singles, and Poison is the fifth studio single from me. And it was just I wrote that song because you ever been in a relationship where you know the person is bad for you? Have you ever had that before? Right? Yeah. So, but you just can't seem to. You're obsessed. You know what I mean? Like you know that poison is bad for you. You know what I mean? But you love the taste, as the lyrics say, right? And that was generally what the song was about. And yeah, I had a ton of fun recording it and writing it because I played guitar on the track. I mean, I played all the instruments on the track, and it was slightly different from the stuff that I had done a little bit earlier. Yeah.
Amazing. And so, okay, so maybe this is a good sort of segue to move into the NFT space, and what's happening with audio
Yeah.
NFTs, and the
Yeah.
shift in the music industry. From your experience with a major label and
Yeah.
coming out of that and looking into sort of this new direction of blockchain solutions and audio NFTs, um, what are some of your thoughts around that? And, like you told me that you guys were touring a lot, and, you were signed to the label, and what were some of maybe the restrictions that you encountered, or the new freedoms that you now feel like you have, if there are some?
Right. Right. So I'll start with we were signed to Universal, so I'll start there. to be honest with you, creatively, Universal never impinged on our creative ideas. They never did, which was great. Maybe because we had a very commercial pop vision, they didn't need to, and I guess that's why they signed us in the first place. We had a really good experience with Universal. It's just that um, there were certain things in terms of organization, for example, like we wanted things to move faster, right? Like we were only releasing maybe one or two singles in a year, which in my opinion was not enough. And because of, on a major label, they have an entire roster, right, of artists. And the minute they release your stuff, if it does well, you continue pushing that single, you know what I mean? If it doesn't do well, they have to unfortunately move on to the next artist. And from a business perspective, I can understand, you know what I mean? They're a business, and they the world doesn't revolve around me and my artistry. So I understand from the label's perspective that they had to move on. You know what I mean? I mean, we had a very successful hit, and in the first single that we released, when we got nominated for an AIM award and everything. But the second one was not. It was the exact opposite. You know what I mean? Especially when you release your first single and you have such success, you imagine after that every song is gonna be like that. You know what I mean? But when we released our second single, it was not like that at all. It flopped, and we couldn't understand. You know what I mean? Like we didn't understand why this was happening. And the minute that song flopped, the label immediately turned their attention to another artist. And we were like, okay, we got to release another song. But, at that point, it takes a long time, the process, because they have to get, the financial department has to clear the finances, and then you got to get a studio, find the right song, blah, blah, and so on and so forth. So, in as far as the label goes, we they did grow our brand, right? As a brand, and we learned a lot from them. And there's nothing that I can say bad about them, because it really helped build back to basics. It gave us an amazing experience, really one in a million chance, and it taught me a lot for me to open up my own record label after that. Sorry, what was your question again, Brandon? I kind of lost track.
Yeah, no, it was just sort of to ask you about the experience, which
Yeah,
you spoke about, and then coming
yeah,
out of that experience, how that shaped where you are
yeah.
now and moving forward, and your thoughts about audio NFTs and the blockchain side of the industry.
Okay, okay, sure. So since then, opening my own record label allows me to release music whenever I want to release music. So I can be as consistent as I want, and or I don't have to be at all. You know what I mean? But of course, I'm a workaholic basically. Like I love music, and I'm always in the studio creating something. You know what I mean? So having my own record label gave me the freedom to release songs as frequently as I want, and the only issue was having my music. Um, how do I say, having my music be found, I guess. You know what I mean? Like you getting playlisted on Spotify is not easy, and other I'm not even sure of other platforms you can have playlisting. And then of course you spend a lot of money trying to promote on, Facebook ads and Instagram ads and Google ads and whatever. And the biggest drawback, unfortunately, although I have to say that these platforms, it does give artists an outlet, I just feel like the compensation is not great. You know what I mean? It really isn't, and unless you're a big artist, and I mean, I'm sure they have their reasons and everything, but as an artist, obviously you want to get paid better for your art, and I think with audio NFTs and just the NFT space in general, it has allowed artists to kind of offer their fan base uh, a more kind of authentic, um, personal kind of product. You know what I mean? And also, um, I think with NFTs now, I mean, I'm not sure what the file size limit is. I'm sure at some point it'll become more. Sorry, and I believe that maybe because of NFTs, we might be able to go back into the whole albums being sold. You know what I mean? Because right now, you're not. I mean, artists aren't really releasing albums. You're releasing singles because you want to get playlisted, right? So hopefully with NFTs, we should be able to sell albums again. Because I'm sure you remember, Vandal, like in the 90s and early 2000s. Getting an album was like collecting a piece of art. The album art that was on it, the little booklet that you get, you can unfold with the lyrics and the other alternate art pieces and photographs and whatever. It was a huge thing, you know what I mean? So yeah, I hope that with NFTs that allows us to express our art express our art that way again. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, this is part of the many conversations that I've had with artists is that, rather than focusing on sort of the cookie cutter quantity formulaic releases that you do that you feel like you need to do for like streaming services and so on, it's sort of taken people away from that idea of putting in the time and effort into composing and arranging an album in a way that it's an experience, and that
Yeah.
NFTs offer the opportunity to deliver an experience,
Yeah.
which we are going to
Yeah.
see, evolve over the coming years for sure. Now, so this is your first audio NFT release.
Yeah.
Have you had any experience previously with crypto or with NFTs at all?
Okay, so I've been in obviously the first cryptocurrency I invested in was Bitcoin. That's what got me into the space. This was in 2017, late 2017. And then, I mean, from there, after buying Bitcoin, I started venturing into altcoins. So I do have a small portfolio. Um, yeah, and I mean, because I follow the news, the crypto space news, uh, I learned about NFTs, and I tried to create my own NFTs on OpenSea, but I don't hold any Ethereum, and the gas fees are a bit high, in my opinion. So I was like, I don't know, let's see, who can I contact regarding this? And boom, Vandal and DAOrecords popped up. I was like, okay, yeah.
Amazing. So, for you, what's happening next? Do, is this sort of new space opening up new ideas in terms of how you want to present your music, or what you're planning to work on next? Is there any influence at all, or do you feel like you have your vision set? This is what's coming next. This is what you want to do.
Right.
What's on the horizon?
I guess my creativity in the space is limited by my understanding. So I think I have some knowledge about it, and slowly on a day-to-day basis, I try to apply my current art and creativity in the NFT and crypto space. This is my first venture into expressing my art in the crypto space. And maybe I might get better ideas. I'm really open to any ideas whatsoever. But as far as music and my art goes, I have a pretty clear direction about the next album, because technically Poison is the second last song on this album. And what I'm planning on is, hopefully, I don't know, you'd have to advise me on this, is when I release the last song on this album, I'm going to bundle it together and release it as an NFT album. You know what I mean? And yeah, I definitely need your help for that as well. So yeah, and then after that, I have another album that's kind of halfway written as well, and I have a very clear idea of how I want to present that and what it sounds like. And hopefully, yeah, I'll come up with some more ideas on how to venture into the crypto space with my art, and would love to hear your ideas as well.
That's so amazing. And I look forward to it personally because we've known each other for a little while already, and I'm
Yeah,
excited to see you in this space, and the potential that it can offer you as a creative, and,
yeah,
and as an independent creative now, right? So,
yeah, that's right.
Christian, thank you so much for being with us. This is
Thank
another
you for having me.
DAOdrops interview. The song is called Poison. It's on the walls in Cryptovoxels. Look left, look right. You're going to find it there, and make sure to follow Christian on all the socials, and enjoy the music. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Arnold. Thank you so much.
One love. What's going on, everybody? It's Vandal back again with another DAOdrops interview. This time we have Weinbagz, Alex Weinbagz. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's an exciting time because we got the drop of your Genesis audio NFT with DAOrecords called Hey, and that's going to be up on the wall in the place to be. But before we get into talking about the NFT and the music, let's get to know you a little bit better. Tell the people a bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I am Weinbagz, Alex Weinberg. I grew up in Boise, Idaho, and now live in Portland, Oregon. I've been a lifelong musician. You know, I started playing keys when I was probably like, 5 or 6, just, lessons, and sort of put that aside for a while and started playing guitar in high school and played in bands pretty much all throughout, my school experience, and picked keys back up when I was about 18, and also went to school for like jazz performance. And I didn't really love the atmosphere around that. It was a little stiff, and I learned a lot, and about like arranging and being able to read charts pretty quickly and just sort of pretty much be a gigging musician, I guess. It sort of just geared me up for that, which is good. So I've been gigging pretty regularly for the past 10 years, doing like regional and local stuff. Not too much, national touring or anything, but once COVID hit, I had also been using Ableton and Logic for a long time, but not really professionally, and I wasn't really trying to produce. I was just sort of using them. I got hired for a couple different projects that I had to use Logic in, but I also just used those programs to like make demos to hand out to my band and shit, to like, here's the parts, learn them. But yeah, when COVID hit, I started just going head first into producing, and pretty much have been spending, as much time possible as I can teaching myself how to mix, and just trying to create as much as possible. So my plan was to release an EP sometime this year. And I have more than enough material now. But while I was gearing up for that, my friend sort of introduced me to this whole world. I'm pretty fresh to the crypto world in general. But within being on Clubhouse for a few hours, I was hooked. I saw a lot of potential, and I sort of just did a full 180 and dove head first into this because it just called to me, I guess. I don't know. So I've been pretty much devoting all my time to immersing myself into this world. And that's pretty much where I'm at now.
That's amazing. Thanks for the in-depth, getting into your background and everything. And so, what made you kind of like jump back to keys after going into like playing guitar and from keys to guitar to back to keys? Was it anything in particular?
Yeah, it was. I was sort of trying to be a guitarist, but I wasn't getting hired. And I started getting hired being like a pretty, at that time, I was not good at keys, but I was getting gigs doing it. So I was like, fuck, I guess, there was just so much more demand for a keyboard player that I'm like, I guess this is what I'm doing now. So I sort of just put the guitar aside for the most part and jumped headfirst into that and just tried as hard as I could to master it. And I'm still working at it, but I've gotten a lot better since then. So
I like the Fender Rhodes, has a beautiful
Oh yeah.
sound. I see it there next to you. It's
There's a cool
amazing.
story about this Rhodes. Was
Oh,
I actually
tell
got
us.
it. I got it given to me. It was someone, and the funny thing is, like, I didn't really know them that well. We sort of were in the same circles, like musically, but I'd only met them really a few times, but they posted on Facebook like, "Hey, I'm giving away this Rhodes. Who wants it?" And I just happened to see it first, and I responded. He's like, "Yeah, it's yours. Come grab it." And I showed up at his house. He's like, "Do I know you?" And I'm like, "I don't think so, but I'll take the Rhodes." And he gave it to me. So
That's really cool.
yeah, it's a great instrument.
So you mentioned that you started diving a bit deeper into production and everything once COVID started and touring kind of disappeared and live shows and stuff. What were some of the things that pulled you in more to the production side, and what kind of styles and sounds were you experimenting with?
I mean, the thing is, I always, I guess, sort of enjoyed, because I was a band leader for a while as in conjunction with being like a sideman. But neither was fulfilling to me. I mean, the band leader thing, it was, I hate wrangling people in that fashion. But on the other side, it's like when you're a sideman, it wasn't really paying a lot. So it was like, it's paying, but the gigs I was doing, I was not happy with it all. So I was like, is the pay really worth the time I'm putting in right now? And it wasn't. And I really always sort of enjoyed using Logic and Ableton. Like it came really naturally to me, where performing didn't. It did, but it didn't at the same time. Like I have a lot of friends who are just way more loose with that. And yeah, so it was sort of a natural progression, but it was something that I wish I would have sort of started dumping a lot of my time into earlier than I did, but so it goes.
And you talked about your introduction to NFTs and the crypto community, and you'd mentioned Clubhouse and those different things. So what were some of the keywords, or maybe some of the ethos that you heard about NFTs that really led you to say, hey, I want to try this out?
It was a few things. I mean, it was the promise of having everything totally decentralized, which the more I learn, the more it seems like maybe it's not quite there all the way, but also, artists, the fact that I could put these, I was like, I might as well just give this a try, put these tracks up that I'm working on. I'm not giving away, any rights to them. And it's still something that I can release later if I want to. It seemed like, to me, it offered up a whole new way of creating, and the promise of maybe actually making a living doing it, hopefully. And, many more things to play with, I guess. I don't know how to put that better, but it sort of made me feel like a kid again, being like, I just felt more creative than I have in years, ever, maybe. So.
Yeah, I think I've heard the similar stories from other people in terms of the inspiration that this space has provided. And I think that it's not just the technology and what we can do with it, but also the type of community that has rallied around it. And that kind of vibe, I think, is something that I found at my time in the space was what kept me in, what kept pushing me forward. And I'm wondering how you feel about the community, and what are your thoughts on how that sort of compares to your experience, like touring and live gigging and stuff.
Well, that's another side of it, is that what pulled me in was the fact that everybody was so supportive and free with information and like, hey, I want to help you do this, and let's all do this, and hopefully there will be enough, or there will be enough for us all to eat. Where in the in the music world I was used to, it was pretty opposite. It was like, it's been hard for me to get away from the mentality of like, there's not enough for all of us. So like, I'm happy for my buds when they get gigs, but at the same time, that's there's such fierce competition for these spots, festival spots, and just anything, getting into clubs in new cities. And it just felt like there wasn't enough for all of us. So the promise that there is enough and that, we can all sort of do this together was really enticing.
Now, let's talk a bit about the track, Hey. Maybe you can get into, your process with this song, why you selected this one for your audio NFT, and maybe dive into the production and what you did.
Yeah, this is actually one of the first tracks that it was the second one that I produced like during this pandemic. I actually initially wrote it. I play with a group that does like live drum and bass. And I initially wrote it with that group in mind. I over arranged it because it's just a 4-piece. So it would definitely need to be rearranged for the group, but I figured I sort of want to try, upping my producing chops while at the same time creating content for, down the road. So that's sort of how it came about. In terms of how I produced it, I mean, it's a very piano heavy track. I think my favorite part about the track was the sort of the chord voicings and harmonic movement. The drums are all sampled. I mean, I always sample all my drums. And this is really my first attempt at actually trying to create produce a drum and bass track. So, yeah.
And why the title Hey?
Mainly because a couple things. I found different samples of people saying hey, but the name of the group that I play with is called Barn, which it's the first letter of each of our names. So Brett, Alex, Rowan, and Nick, Barn. So a lot of our songs are actually, we name them after like barn animals, or in this case, instead of HEY, I did HAY for, like horses eating hay. And it was sort of just like a fun little play on words, I guess.
That's cool, because I was wondering also, it's like, okay, there's got to be a little story behind that.
Yep.
Awesome. So what's next after this? Do you have any other plans in terms of what you want to work on, other tracks, things already ready that you're looking to release after this?
Specifically like as NFTs, you're asking?
Just in general. Yeah.
I mean, I have a couple other NFT projects that I'm working on. Yeah, I mean, pretty much my goal right now, I have a couple like reoccurring, like I have one project that drops like weekly, and it's in conjunction with a show on Clubhouse actually that I'm sort of writing music for. And then I have another project that drops bi-monthly, and it's a collaboration between me and a friend doing like visual. It's like a visual light show or digital light show. And then my plan really is to take a lot of these tracks that I release as NFTs and then release them as an EP sort of through major streaming platforms, and just get it out there as much as I can.
Nice. So what about the artwork for Hey?
So the artwork I'm actually going to use is it's sort of like a variation of a logo. it was I commissioned my friend JP, who goes by Pop Wonder. He's also an NFT artist and sort of someone that first introduced me to all of this. So he created the logo for me maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. And I've sort of used it for a few of my recent drops and sort of just like reworked it for this one. Because I just love the image, I guess.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
if you're out there now in Cryptovoxels and in your avatar form, you can interact directly with Hey, the audio NFT from Weinbagz right here. It is available. And I want to thank you for joining me for the interview. I know this was kind of like, you know, last minute in a way, so it's good that we had the time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. Do you want to give any shout outs to anyone to close it up?
I'll definitely give a shout out. I mean, I just did, but to Pop Wonder for creating my logo, and also to Muse Bandit, who's the guy that really got me started on all this. And yeah, I don't think I would be doing any of this if it wasn't for either of them. So
awesome. And I think your dog agreed too. I heard that.
Yeah, she definitely does. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, Weinbagz, thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you in Cryptovoxels. And one love to everybody out there. This is DAOdrops. Go check it out on the walls in the place. The interview is live streaming from YouTube right now. We want to thank you for joining us and speak to you soon. Peace out.
So yeah.